This episode is powered by Specialized Recruiting Group in Livonia, helping businesses find top-tier talent and professionals land their next big opportunity.
Welcome to Ghosted by the Machine, the podcast where job seekers break through the algorithm and finally get heard. No filters, no bots, just real conversations about what's really actually happening in the hiring process. I'm your host, Mark Lane, and today's guest is someone focused on something many job seekers don't get enough of: community, mindset, and practical tools that actually move the needle. Jeff Thomas is the founder of a job seekers community designed to help people stay positive, focused, and confident during one of the toughest seasons of their lives. Jeff, all the way from Pennsylvania, welcome to Ghosted by the Machine.
Thank you, Mark.
So, Jeff, how and why did you start Job Seekers Community? And was there a specific moment where that made you realize people needed more support than they were getting?
I've been a VP of sales and a fractional VP of sales for the last 10 years. If you're familiar with that market, the average job tenure is about 13 months. I've looked for more jobs, I think, than anybody else. I've also hired tons and tons of people. I've even built my own recruiting company. My problem in my own recruiting company was I found I just wanted to help people find jobs. I wasn't trying to fill them as much as I was trying to match, these other folks. So I realized over the last couple of years that everybody in the job search feels worthless. They feel alone. And they just, job search is the worst thing in the world for, let's just say, 99 days or 99 no's. You get a job and the whole history disappears and you forget about it. But those are some of the hardest times for people to go through. And there are actionable things you can do to significantly enhance your mental state while you're searching. And there's also a lot of really solid tips and tools. And some of them get a lot of play, but most of them don't. So in our community, we're able to support each other as we're looking for jobs. And we're able to use some really interesting technology in order to shorten the job search.
Your mental health is definitely on call during your job search. So your community focuses on helping people stay positive and sane through what can be brutal. What mindset shift makes the biggest difference for someone stuck in a long job search?
We have two things that are very popular. One is every day at noon Eastern, and anybody who's listening is welcome to join us. And 99% of this is all free. But we have a Zoom call and we call it Screaming into the Void. And it's a place where people come and commune, right? They talk about their job search. The people on this search are like, literally, there's one of the ladies on our, who joins every day, has an interview today at 1 p.m. And this morning in the community, I saw people saying, hey, good luck today. So there's this community aspect, and there's, I always say, show up when you want to show up. Don't show up. We don't care. But it's just a place for people who are in a very solo or alone position. Job searching is done alone in almost all cases. It's a place for them to kind of get together. The other thing that we have, well, we have two. We'll talk about tools in a minute, but we talk a bit about how do you stay positive through this. And one of it's a mini course. It's a 5-section course, and it's called the Belief Audit. And it helps you do things like separate yourself from your job. There's a bunch of exercises that we offer. Most of us, when somebody says, well, who are you? You say, well, I'm a dad, I'm a husband. Oh, and I'm a podcaster, or I'm a sales guy, or I'm a whatever. And most of us take so much of our personality into that definition. And what you have to realize is that those definitions don't define you, and that the lack of them doesn't diminish you. The other thing that we help people really understand is what the odds are. Because if you understand that applying for a job is kind of like buying a lottery ticket, it's just easier to handle that rejection. And then we try to help people, buy those lottery tickets that have better odds.
Sure. So one of your standout tools helps people match their communication style to their interviewer.
Yes.
How does that actually work, and why does it make such a strong impact?
So we have made very heavy use of AI. And AI is able to help us project things that would have taken days or weeks prior. So, for example, if you're familiar with the Myers Briggs or the Enneagram or the DISC personality profiles, you can go and take those and get a really detailed answer. You can also get that information from a well tuned AI agent. So what we do is we ask you to put in your resume, put in your LinkedIn profile, and then answer some questions. What's the job title? What's the job description? Who is your interviewer? What's the stage? And what's their LinkedIn profile? And then we go through this whole process and take a look at you're this type of disc personality and they're that type. We actually break those into two separate sections, your personality, their personality. And then right below that, we say, how do those two things mesh? For example, you might be, if you're like me, you just want to like talk and ramble and go. And if I'm interviewing with somebody who's really methodical, the tool will help me say, make sure that you take pauses and make sure that you're giving them a chance to participate because they're a little less extroverted maybe than you are. We take the company culture, we take the job description, and then we do a couple of things such as we'll project what questions you may well get asked and how to prepare for those answers. One of the most important questions on the form, however, is what are you worried about? And we had somebody, she's in HR, she put right in the box. She was interviewing for a manufacturing job. She's got a lot of HR experience, but not in manufacturing. And without this tool, when they asked about that, she would have been like, well, she wouldn't have a good answer.
Sure.
Well, through the AI, the AI looked at all of her certifications and pointed out to her that 4 of her certifications were very important in the manufacturing area. So it helped her be ready for that question. She got the job offer yesterday, actually, from that very
awesome.
company. But it really helped her understand and know how she's going to answer a question that maybe otherwise she wouldn't have. The biggest problem with that tool today, in my opinion, it wants to produce 15, 16 pages of information. I'm trying to keep it down under 8. And we've actually added a summary sheet to the front page so that it's a study guide for your interview. And I haven't had anybody who has gone through it and been like, I didn't learn something really valuable that I was able to use in my interview.
Well, if it can help you with transferable skills, that would be amazing.
Absolutely. It looks at all your keywords, all those things. And again, you might say to me, hey, what do you know about manufacturing? And I don't think I know anything. But we've dumped all this information in there, and now we can make some correlations these transferable skill correlations that you might not be familiar, that you as a human might not immediately go, oh yeah, I'm good at that.
Well, especially with individuals with over 10, 15 years of experience, you know, and they're trying to break into a different field or reinvent themselves.
Absolutely.
So recruiters form impressions in the first 6 seconds. What are job seekers getting wrong about those first moments, and what should they be doing instead?
There's 2 really important sides to this. The first side is we all, as job seekers, hear the advice. Tune your resume. Make sure you have the right keywords. We do all these things and they're all important. Every little piece of advice out there, hopefully every little piece of advice out there has a positive potential value, right? You might do one thing that gets you the interview, but you never know what those things are. So it's really important to be able to analyze your brand, as in who your brand is projecting to that recruiter. So one of the things that we do, we have a thing called the 6-second signal. And it's what signal are you presenting to a recruiter when they first open up your application and look at your resume or your LinkedIn. We do an analysis of your LinkedIn. We do an analysis of your resume, all the way down to a visual analysis that says when somebody skims your resume, what do they see? Humans tend to read in what they call an F pattern. You read across the top, down the side, and then in the middle. So we help people actually take advantage of those types of items. So actually that's how we really mostly help people get involved in understanding what a recruiter is going to see instantly. The other part that we do of that, though, we'll take your LinkedIn and your resume and we compare them together. Most people have a really good resume. Most people have a pretty good LinkedIn. They rarely are in alignment. So my resume got me the job, but now the hiring manager is checking me out and they don't see it. And so we really help you kind of put those two things together. And so that's been one of our most popular tools. We've actually just released a more simplistic version for the very beginning of your job search. And we're calling it like your branding agent, which is you just throw in your resume, you throw in your LinkedIn, and then we tell you what the world thinks you are. And it's a baseline. That tells you it's like, oh, I want to be this job, but the world sees me as that job. And so again, you can shift to that job or you can change what you're projecting. And so
Well,
we help you do that through these tools.
you can always look at yourself and say, well, maybe I can't fit this, but I can fit this. I can go
Yes,
from the
exactly.
square to the circle and I fit better.
Exactly. And if that's good for you, then we will help you get there. And if it's
Right.
not good for you, then we'll help you make those changes to still try to fit in, because there's a lot of things you can do to get an interview that most people don't talk about.
For someone who feels burned out, discouraged, or they're disappearing into the algorithm, what are a few practical steps they can take right now to regain confidence and momentum?
Understand your odds, have a support network, and do the things that will help you get to the next stage. So most people are feeling really beaten down in this market because they can't even get an interview. They send out 300 applications, and if they get a rejection, it's auto rejected. Once got an auto rejection 4 p.m. on Christmas Eve. Like really harsh. But understanding that there are things that you can do that dramatically increase your odds of getting to that next step. Let's just again assume that that next step is getting the interview versus getting the offer. So we'll help people understand that your odds of getting an interview if you're one of the first applicants is significantly higher. It's 6 to 8 times higher than if you're just in the middle of the pack. And so one of the things that helps you is you get a taste of success. You're not just literally screaming into the void. Again, we love to have people come into the community. You can chat with other folks. We've got live chat, we've got classes, we've got this daily Zoom call. These are all things that are really there to help you feel less alone. And it's very comforting to know that you're not the only person who sent out 600 applications. But it's more comforting to know that some of these people you're talking to are doing new things that are helping them be more successful. I tell anybody I talk to, I can't get you a job, but I can help you dramatically increase your odds of getting in front of the right people. And that's what we try to do in the community.
Well, is there anything that gives you hope these days, Jeff?
Yes, it's a terrible market and everybody in it is playing by the same rules. I'm going to do everything I can to make sure I'm projecting the right persona. And then I'm going to sit back and hope I get the interview. And if you get referred into a job, you're 18 times more likely to get the job than if you apply cold. So if you come in through a recruiter, you're much more likely. If you apply in the first 2 hours, you're much more likely. And so there are things that we can do that most of us don't, that do flip the odds. The other thing that I think I'm seeing, I'm not an economist, but in the last 4 weeks, it appears there are many more recruiter roles being advertised. And therefore, if you think of that as a leading indicator, if I'm going to hire a recruiter, why? Well, I'm going to hire people behind that. So I do think people, this whole market is just this weird, everything's stuck. It's all gummed up. I think the demand inside companies is increasing for them to take the risk to make the hires. And I'm hopeful that seeing this perception of a recruiter increase is a good sign for the spring. But again, if you're 1 out of 800 applicants, if you're number 760, you're not going to get looked at. You're just not.
Right. Well, Jeff, thank you so much for building something that reminds people they're not navigating this alone. And that's exactly why we do this show, to connect what's happening behind the scenes with what job seekers are experiencing in real time. So if you're watching or listening and thinking, that's me, you're not alone. If you want to share your story, email me or send me a DM. And if you want to stay plugged into the real stories, real insights, and real humans behind today's hiring system, make sure to follow and subscribe for new episodes, shorts, and conversations every week. And if your organization believes in making hiring more human and wants to support conversations like this, we're currently opening a few sponsorship spots, so feel free to reach out. I'm Mark Lane, and this is Ghosted by the Machine, because behind every application, there's a human. Let's make hiring human again. Jeff, thanks again. Have a great day.
You too. Thank you, Mark.